Hello students, how are you? This is the concluding lecture on the picture of Dorian Gray. We had discussed about the novel, we had discussed about the characterization in the novel, we have discussed about the role that the characters play in the plot of the novel, and now we are going to conclude this discussion on the picture of Dorian Gray by discussing the prevalent themes and the symbolism at play in the novel. So we'll start with the themes. And the first thing that you need to understand is the theme of mortality of beauty and youth. As you have understood from my lectures or by your own study of the novel, I hope you have studied a bit of the novel, at least the summary and sort. That beauty and youth play a very important part. In fact, the foundation of this very novel, the foundation of the plot of the novel, is on the grounds of beauty and youth. Just look at the novel and see if we take beauty and youth out of it. There is no novel, there is no Dorian Gray, and there is no story at all. So beauty and youth is perhaps the most important theme in the novel, and the interesting point that it is the mortality of beauty and youth that we are concerned with, that Dorian Gray is concerned with, that leads us to all forms of problematic situations, leading to innumerable deaths, suicides, and ends and culminates in Dorian Gray killing himself by stabbing his own portrait. So youth and beauty are at the beginning of the novel, for a very lengthy period in the novel, are shown to be the two most important and prime factors of culture, life, society, civilization, without which life has no value. Under the tenets of new hedonism as propagated by Lord Wotton, beauty and youth, which in turn lead to pleasure, occupy the absolute first position. That is the tip of the mountain. There is nothing above it, there is nothing more important than it. And from the moment Lord Wotton influences and manipulates Dorian into believing these tenets, Dorian becomes astoundingly involved in trying to preserve his own beauty and youth. Dorian comes to the realization, because of the manipulation of Lord Wotton, that all the pleasures that he is enjoying in life, it is because of beauty and youth, and that he is enjoying all those things that exuberates beauty and youth. The moment the object loses its beauty, its youthfulness, it does not remain pleasurable at all. And this starts playing on Dorian's mind, and he starts to think of ways to preserve his own beauty because he wants to be valued. He understands that a moment will come, the Dorian Gray, who as an object is revered by everyone, admired by everyone, will one day lose his importance in the Victorian London society, because his beauty will fade, his youthfulness will disappear. And it's this that makes Dorian view Basil Hallward's portrait of him in a very new light. But as we see that the painting, instead of immortalizing him, is kind of making him aware at every possible step of his life that that his beauty cannot be immortalized. Even after even after the supernatural machinations that work in the novel, and Dorian's soul is transferred into the painting, where his painting age and become withered as a result of his sins, and Dorian stays alive. Dorian stays the same, similarly youthful as he was, as he ever is, each glance at the portrait makes him realize that this beauty and youthfulness is a very mortal thing, and even the painting is unable to capture its immortality. So even if there is any moral in the story, in the novel, it is that the natural order needs to be preserved, and beauty, youth, age, pleasure shall run its course according to the natural order. It cannot be manipulated. If it is manipulated, it turns monstrous. To mess with nature is something monstrous, and nature bites back. That is the moral of this entire novel. Now we move on to the next theme, which are surfaces, objects, and appearances. Now you will see that throughout the novel, throughout the story is never concerned with the deeper, more intricate areas of a person's character. It only deals with the superficial, just the surface character, just the surface layers of the characters. And as we all know, everything that glitters is not gold. As if you remember Merchant of Venice, Portia's portrait was not in the gold casket, it was not in the silver casket, it was in that haggard, uh, I think it was a graphite casket, a black graphite casket. So surface is not the cover is not an expression for what the book is. There is no art to tell the mind's construction on the face. If I am to quote Shakespeare again, so we can't live our life by believing and investing ourselves at only the surfaces of the objects, by only taking into account the appearances of the objects and not go deeper into them and delve deeper into them and see what they actually are, what their role in life actually is. Beauty is one such thing. Beauty in the picture of Dorian Gray, we deal with the surface appearance of beauty, not inner beauty, not conscience, not what the characters are within, not what the characters metaphorically represent. It is what the characters physically, literally represent in a very outward nature. Dorian is at his peak when he's unaware of his beauty, but when conscious of it, his life becomes about surface and appearance. His taste of fashion grows. He loves tapestries, jewels, very flat decorative objects. Characters' identities and fates are entirely decided by outward appearances. As long as Dorian was not aware of aware of the effect that his beauty has on people, Dorian was quite unaware of any of these hedonistic indulgences of life, Epicurean indulgences of life, libertine indulgences of life, where pleasure becomes the only be all and end all of life. But the moment he becomes aware of it, partly due to Lord Wotton's manipulation and partly by observing himself in Basil Hallward's portrait, his life becomes only about surfaces and appearances. If it is pleasureful on the surface, if it is beautiful on the surface, Dorian invests in it. And a similar thing happens in his relationship with Sybil Vane. He's not in love with Sybil, he's just in love with the beauty of Sybil as a stage actress. And the realization of which leads Sybil to commit suicide. Because as we can all understand, Sybil understands of the person that Dorian is beneath his surface. This realization makes Sybil realize what Dorian Gray beneath that appearance, that beautiful appearance, is actually is. So move on to the next theme, which is art and the imitation of life. This is again a very important theme, because through art, life, through art, there has been an attempt in the novel to imitate life, which Dorian expects Basil Hallward's paint portrait of himself to do. He wants the painting to immortalize not only his beauty, but keep it and defy natural order and help him stay ever young. The danger of seeing life only through the lens of art is that one must stay at a distance or risk ruining the illusion, just like a mirage. And this is exactly what happens. The painting is the first object of all things. That painting in which Dorian invests his soul becomes the very first object which makes Dorian realize that beauty, youth, and trying to preserve, trying to imitate one facet of life throughout is an illusion, and it is bound to break through. Now we move on to the next theme, which is influence. Again, influence becomes a very important part. Again, another important theme, because again, Dorian's characterization and Dorian's psychology is created by Lord Wotton's influence and manipulation. Had it not been for Lord Wotton's manipulation of Dorian, we would have perhaps seen an entirely different Dorian Gray. But it is Lord Wotton who starts the engine. It is Basil Hallward's painting which acts as the fuel, and Dorian, being the car, runs himself off the cliff. Now, the second influence again that we need to speak of is Dorian's influence on Basil Hallward. Basil Hallward, as we know, as I had told you in the previous lecture, has always been dissatisfied with his role as an artist, as a painter, unable to find a muse, a worthy muse, which would inspire him to unlock his potentials. Dorian acts as that potential. It is Dorian who influences Basil to paint his masterpiece, which, as Basil would confess at the end of the novel, is not a masterpiece. It is a painting that has ruined the life of his muse. And Basil, being a honest artist, Basil being someone who is true to his art, is unable to bear this, unable to bear the shame and the guilt of having the accolade of ruining the soul of his muse. And Basil is killed by Dorian when he tries to destroy the painting, his masterpiece. On a personal level, he's confused and changed by his romantic feelings, where Dorian's influence is also more far-reaching, actually seeming to change Basil's ability for painting and to change painting itself in an almost supernatural way. As I told you, Dorian is the person who unlocks Basil's potentials, unlocks Basil's abilities as a painter to such an extent that the painting the painting leaves this literal physical plane and almost moves onto a three-dimensional, abstract, metaphorical plane. And the fourth theme is men and women. Now, again, this is kind of a feminist approach to the novel. If you read the novel, you will see that this is something that reading the summary is not going to help you with, because there's not much about the women. There are portions dealing with the women, but they are very far-fetched and have to be read out from the novel. They do not form the basic plot of the novel, and hence in most of the cases, they are omitted from the summaries that you find on the internet. But the novel harbors a very misogynist misogynistic uh, sentiment and emotion towards women. Now, this is Oscar Wilde's bringing out the reality of the 19th century Victorian society, bringing out the ills of the society, putting the novel as a mirror to society and showing society for what it is. Beneath all the 19th century garb, the mirage of morality, this society, this London society, was not the least moralistic under no circumstances. Lord Wharton continuously refers to women as a decorative sex. His relationship with Lady Victoria Wharton, his wife, is very strained. And even at the moment that Victoria Wharton leaves Lord Wharton uh, is not shown to shed any tears of unhappiness at the loss at the loss of his wife. Uh, so Oscar Wilde brings out the Victorian misogyny in play, and this is again seen in Dorian's relationship with Sybil Vane. So Sybil is important to Dorian as long as he is able to derive pleasure from Sybil. The moment the other facets, the other aspects of Sybil's character overpower the pleasure principle of Sybil, uh, Dorian moves away from it. Dorian moves away from her. Now, another very underlying theme in the novel is homosexuality. Oscar Wilde himself being a homosexual, uh, there is no such explicit homosexual relationship as within the plot, but there are very many occasions, situations, and scenes which have a very homoerotic sentiment. For example, the greatest of them being Basil Hallward's enamoredness towards Dorian Gray. Now, you must understand the pun on the words adoration, fascination. Dorian is fascinated by various men along with women. Various older men are fascinated with Dorian. So you must understand the pun on the word fascination. Now, this again is something that something that Oscar Wilde projects in the novel, and one of the basic themes why a large portion of the novel, when it was published in the 19th century, was censored, because according to church laws, homosexuality is a crime, as we all know. Now we'll go into uh, details into this later in some other day about the politics of this. But in in associating homosexuality within his novels, what Oscar Wilde is trying to do is just bring forth the societal situation which has homosexuality in it along with heterosexuality. So he is bringing out the marginalized, decentralized, almost criminalized notions of homosexuality out into the open. And as I told you, the novel is nothing but a mirror to the society. And he's bringing this out to society itself. Now we go to the symbols. There are two symbols. The first is the colors red and white. Now, red means, as we all know in common parlance, it means danger. Here, red means something devilish. Something devilish. Imagine Satan. Imagine the devil who lives in hell. Imagine the lake of fire. Imagine the popular representations of Satans or devils. Any kind of devils. Blood is associated with it. Red stands for danger. Red stands for rage. Red stands for destruction. And this is continually associated with Dorian Gray at the latter end of the novel, because there Dorian is bringing upon his ruin, completely ruining himself and bringing on his own downfall. And the Color white, contrastively, is associated with purity, as we know. So Sybil Vane's body is described as white. Again, there is white and then there is pale. So Sybil Vane's body is described as white, refers to her purity. Her body described as pale refers to Dorian Gray ruining her purity. And the last symbol is the symbol of the picture itself, the picture of Dorian Gray, where it is perhaps the most overreaching and the most overt symbol in the entire novel, on which the plot of the novel is built. And though physically it has nothing more than two-dimensional object, it becomes the main antagonist of their lives, and has such far-reaching and powerful influences that it seems almost to be more alive than Dorian himself. The picture dictates Dorian's life and not the other way around. It is in a bid to preserve the painting, preserve his beauty and youthfulness as painted in the painting, that Dorian does what he does. It is the picture who manipulates Dorian's life and not the other way around. It represents beauty, mortality, time, and art, all the major themes of the book, and its degradation literally presents us the dangers inherent in these ideas. So it is the picture which brings forth the fault in Dorian's and the fault in Lord Wotton's ideas of new hedonism. It is the picture that brings forth the ruin of Dorian Gray. It is the picture which makes us realize that natural order cannot be tampered with, that beauty, time, art, everything has a mortal quality associated with it. It cannot be immortal. It has some metaphorical meanings along with its literal meanings, which need to be assessed and emphasized too. So this is the picture of Dorian Gray. We finish the picture of Dorian Gray here. I hope you are studying the novel as much as you can from the internet. I have uploaded certain notes onto the forum. Please refer to those notes too. And in case you have any queries, feel free to contact me.